You are probably familiar with the five love languages. Trenton Smalley wrote the book decades ago. It's still in print. There's workbooks that go with it and websites and all that stuff. Basically, what they say is people have a primary love language, and there are five different love languages. There's physical touch, there is gifts, there are acts of service, there is meaningful time, and there are words of affirmation. And that the primary way that you feel loved is through one of those languages. You really feel loved when you're complimented or affirmed. Hey, man, you did a great job. Wow, the house looks really good and clean. Whatever it is, kind of thing like that. Physical touch, which is non-sexual. So it's holding hands, always hand on the back, just touch. Meaningful time is just doing something together. One of my children, this was clearly their love language as a child. How many times we hear this? You want to do something with me? You want to do something with me? Do something with me? That was clearly, meaningful time with them. And then you have acts of service. They love it when you do something for them. Even the smallest acts of service make them feel loved. And then, of course, gifts. Some people just feel loved when they receive gifts. Now, we have a tendency to want to do our love language as well. Mine personal is touch. I'm married to a woman who is verbal affirmation. So if she gives me a back rub, I tell her what a great job she's doing, and we both feel loved. But what I want to talk about today is not the love languages, but I want to talk about the touch element. And I want to talk about human touch. And the reason I want to do that is because two reasons. One, I do not believe that the love languages are exclusive, meaning this is your love language, you don't care about the rest. Yes, we like gifts. Everybody likes getting a gift. I mean, who doesn't like words of affirmation? Who doesn't like hanging out with people that you like and care about? I mean, all those things are natural. So in a sense, we all like all the love languages, but there's a primary one that stands above all the others. And then usually there's a secondary one as well. I mean, the others are okay, but they really don't jazz us like that top one. Now, the reason so that's the first reason, because I think all of us, to some extent, like all of them at least a little bit. But I want to talk about human touch because it's something that all of us need. It's something that we find in the Bible. And I want to talk about the significance of human touch. I don't have to tell you the power of human touch, what it means to have physical contact. You can go find thousands of websites that talk about the significance and the power of human touch, about many of the problems that people have as adults because they were never cuddled or hugged or touched as a child, and there's even science behind it about the way synapses form in the brain and all that. But I don't want to get into all the science of it or the psychology of it because that's not really the point that I want to make today. But we understand the power of touch. Personally, I believe we understand the power of touch better now than any generation ever in the past because we went through COVID. And during COVID, there was a distinct lack of human touch. No shaking hands, no hugs, no fist bumps, no nothing. And yet, it was amazing. They developed, let's touch elbows. Why? Because that need for physical contact. It's like we need something. So maybe we just touch elbows, we won't spread the virus. But we went through a period where human contact was diminished greatly for people. And there were a lot of negative ramifications of that, a lot of them. So I think we understand the value of human touch probably more than any other generation because we were deprived of it for a couple of years. At least many people were completely deprived for a couple of years. Now, I do want to just touch briefly on the science part of touch. Your skin is the largest organ of the human body. Matter of fact, it was a trivia question one time. What's the largest organ of the human body? And skin was the answer. When you are touched, it sends good or bad messages to your brain. If you're touched by heat, it burns. That sends a message, pull your hand back. Or if it's extreme cold, or if you're being stuck by something, or you're being bitten by something, or you bump something and bruise. I mean, your body sends negative messages. Hey, that's not good touch, as well as positive touch that we can get. You know, it's lightly stroked, or you know, when you're hurting, you just like to be hugged and things like that. When you engage in pleasant touch that sends good messages to your brain, like a hug, your brain releases a hormone, oxytocin, along with some other hormones as well. It makes you feel good. It strengthens emotional and social bonds, and it helps to lower your anxiety and your fear. When people are afraid, they hold hands. Have you ever noticed that? You're on a roller coaster and people want to grab you. Why are you grabbing each other? Because it helps to create that bond in a moment of fear and anxiety. And so we find that. But in addition to all that, you can get off a bunch of websites. We found a lot of human touch in here. There's a lot of human touch in here. And when David was dying, they hired a young lady to lay with him. Probably not a wife kind of thing. There's all debates about what that means. Probably his body, he's cold. His circulation system is decreasing. He doesn't produce the heat that he used to. So have someone lay with him so he can get their body heat, and just the comfort of someone there, just physically next to you. And they're just, you know, that's probably the most extreme example. They're always laying hands on people all the time, just laying hands on people a lot. And so human touch is just very, very important throughout the Bible. Jesus was always touching people. He would sit a child in his lap. People were always thronging just to touch him, touch the hem of his garment, because there was a tradition that the hem of the garment had healing power. So, of course, we know about the lady with the issue of blood, but there were others that just wanted, if we could just touch the hem of his garment. People just wanted to touch him. The crowds pressed in on him. Jesus is, he's touching people. But there's one that stands out above them all. It says, I believe the most about the power of human touch. And that's in Mark chapter 1, starting verse 40. And a leper came to him, imploring him, and kneeling said to him, If you will, you can make me clean. Moved with pity, he stretched out his hand and touched him, and said to him, I will be clean. And immediately the leprosy left him, and he was clean. That goes on to say Jesus charged him not to tell anyone, but go to the priest and show he's clean, and other things. I don't want to get into that. I want to look at this passage closely. I want to note a couple things. First thing I want to note is Jesus, with all the people that he touched, never touched anybody that was demon-possessed. Jesus spoke to the demons, but he never touched the person. So that's probably a lesson for us. In spiritual warfare, we speak with authority, you don't touch. So if you think someone is under demonic influence, you don't lay your hands on and pray for them, you speak out loud, and Jesus always spoke to the demons and cast them out. So that's the one non-touch thing that we see with Jesus. The second thing I want to note is Jesus should not have done this. He shouldn't have done this. A leper is unclean. To touch someone unclean makes you unclean. So I want you to see the power of touch. Jesus did not need to touch this man to heal him. So why does he touch him? Why does Jesus, who is ceremonially clean, touch a man who has to go around yelling, unclean, leper, unclean, to let people know to keep their distance? I'll tell you why. Because this man has not experienced any human touch, maybe in years. As a leper, no one is going to touch him. He's not allowed to touch anyone else. He has been deprived of human touch for a long, long time. So notice what Jesus does. Jesus does not only address the man's physical need, the leprosy, but he also focuses on his emotional need, his psychological need. He touches a man who's not been touched in a long, long time. Can you imagine what it was like for this man to have someone touch him? Just reach out and put his hand on him. Yes, it was great to be forgiven. Yes, not forgiven, I'm sorry. Yes, it was great to be healed, to have his leprosy removed. but man, to be touched. Jesus touches the untouchable. And there's a lot of lessons for us there about reaching out, those that are unlovable and untouchable, and I get all that. But specifically, this man, Jesus reached out and touched him. It's just so impactful to me. It speaks to me that just to go up and put your hand on someone's shoulder. So, man, I appreciate that. Not just a handshake, but just a hand on their shoulder. Sometimes people just need a hug. And they just need a hug. I can remember we were at a water park many years ago. And we were down in the catch pool because our kids were going to go up and slide down the slide into the pool. And there was they're just teenagers. There's a lifeguard up at the top and a lifeguard at the bottom. And they're kind of communicating. It's clear to send someone. And the lifeguard at the top sent someone a little early. And the kid came down and hit some other kid. And there's some tears, but it's not that big a deal. I mean, they're kids, so what? Nobody got seriously injured. And this lady at the pool just went off on the lifeguard at the bottom. I mean, went off on her. And then grabbed her kid and stormed off. And you could tell the lifeguard was very upset. And then I can still remember, because this was just so striking to me. My wife looked at her and said, "Do you need a hug?" And the girl just broke down in tears and held open her arms. I mean, like, do you need a hug? This girl just needed to be, she didn't need someone to say, "Hey, you're okay. What you did was not wrong. That lady was way out of line." I mean, you could say all that, but man, nothing worked like the power of human touch. The power of just a hug. And so I want to encourage you, don't be creepy. Now, I've met some people that are physically creepy. I'll be honest with you. Don't be creepy. But remember the power of human touch. Just the power. And know the power that happens to you. And remember that Jesus touched the untouchable. That Jesus, who was clean, touched the leper who was unclean. Jesus saw beyond just the physical need. He saw the needs of the whole person and reached out and touched him. So I want to encourage you to recognize the power that you have in just a hand on a shoulder, a hand on an elbow. Just come up, put your hand, pat somebody on the back. Just the power that it could have. That someone, have you ever noticed someone who's grieving? What do? We just hug them. I mean, at a funeral, there are a lot of hugs going on because we need that physical touch. So I encourage you to be a person who, in a non-creepy, kind of way. I mean, you got to really be careful if you're a male and they're females. I mean, I understand it can be really creepy and inappropriate, but in ways that are appropriate and decent to show someone you care for them and that God cares for them just by the power of human touch. So I hope you keep this in mind, not just today, but really as you move through life. The power that Jesus shows here of just a touch, of reaching and touching this man that had not been touched in a long, 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 long time. So God bless you. Have a great day, great week, great month, great summer, fall, and great next year as well.